everyone. How are you this evening? And welcome to the first session of our art review um, group. As I said, it's just all of us coming together and consuming a piece of artistic expression. So it could be a film or a book or a TV series. And we all just get to discuss it, And I'm really excited this evening. It's Noughts and Crosses, and this is our first ever session, and so there'll be many more. And as I had said earlier, if you have ideas, please send them to us. Please send them to me either in the comment section or as a DM, and then we'll get our head around it. Yeah, and I'm really excited. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I can see somebody wrote, I can't hear you. I'm very excited today because we have a seasoned professional and he's also a massive fan of Noughts and Crosses, Mr. Dimbo Atiya. I can see he's already here. So we're going to join now and we're going to go straight into the conversation. So we're just going to add him now and then we'll go straight into it. Okay, I'm just trying to add in what's going on now. So as I said, if you do have any ideas for what we are going to watch or read, please send them. So it's all of us doing this together. So yeah, just 1 second. I'm trying to get Dimbo and I can't seem to find him. Okay, yeah. Now. It's just connecting. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Dimbo. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
It's breaking a bit, but I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Thank you so much for doing this and for coming on. And I'm really excited because I know you're a big fan of the show and experience what I experienced.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, so can you just tell me what really got your attention about Noughts and Crosses?
I think the first thing that got my attention about it was the poster that I saw on Catch Up on DSTV. There was something out of, you're scrolling through and then all of a sudden there was this abstract poster and it had this very dark-skinned actress and some white guy. The concept, the design was pretty much very intriguing. And the first thing was like, okay. And then the title, the title, Noughts and Crosses, it just sounded like something that I should click on. And I did. And from the very opening, I just couldn't stop. So that was actually, I'd never heard of the show. I'd never seen any advert or any promo about it. It was just a certain day I was on DSTV Catch Up. I was scrolling down. I saw a poster that caught my attention. And I just stopped and clicked on it. And that's how I got introduced to the show.
It's so funny you say that because that's exactly how I found Noughts and Crosses. I was just going through Catch Up. And then I was like, okay, what is this? It looks interesting. And then when I started, I was like, oh my God. How has this been here?
Yeah, I
didn't know anything about it, and I just got into it. But since I announced that we were going to do this, a lot of people have been sending me messages saying, "Oh, the book is better," or "You shouldn't you shouldn't have watched it. You should read the book first." And a lot of people say that all the time. But what do you feel about adaptations generally?
So the thing about adaptations, to be honest, is like a lot of times the imagination of a writer, a lot of times might not be the same imagination for a filmmaker. There are places where a writer can go to that a film producer or a film director cannot go to in terms of interpretation. So sometimes you're limited by, say, funds, you're limited by the technology to even take you there. It took, the concept of Avatar was written a long time ago. It had to wait for like 15, 16 years before they were able to go there with the technology. So most times when writers think, because they have the big imagination, they go to places in their head because all it will take is ink and paper and just the imagination. But in terms of adapting to television or a movie, it's always a little bit more difficult to achieve what the writer. So a lot of times, a bit of creative license allowed. So most times when people are going to get rights to books or any journal or any material, most times there's a clause that says I have creative license to do what I can do with the story. I know there was an issue with Chimamanda's book,
Yeah.
Half of a Yellow Sun.
Yeah.
I know that somehow it was said that she was not completely satisfied with the adaptation. But hey, at the end of the day, these guys had the budget that they could work with, and they had to do it the best way they could. So I guess that was what happened to Noughts and Crosses. I hear there were 5 books. There were actually 5 books,
Yeah.
and so yes, so there are actually 5 series in the book, and so they had to cut it in a way that they were going to tell the story in. It's a limited series, just 6 episodes. So they needed to get the most of the flesh of the story in 6 episodes, which is a very difficult thing to do when you have 5 books and you have to cut down to 6 episodes. And then the truth is that you have to keep your audience intrigued. So I guess that the way I hear that the ending in the book and how it ended in season 1, they're completely different. I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much why. Yeah.
But you know what? Before we move on, I'll say this. Mallory Blackman, apparently, I read in an article that she had been advised to change the lead characters to Asian characters to gain more publicity for it, and she refused. And she said no, that she's sure a production company will come along who will keep the characters as they are, and obviously, which is what we've seen. But in the TV series, they've obviously made them older, for that love story to really drive all of it. So yeah, I do agree with you. And another thing is, I mean, like, I read a book, you read a book, completely different. My imagination and yours are completely different. So we will interpret it exactly how we want, how our imagination goes. So you can't expect filmmaker to get into your head. They would only interpret it to the best of their ability to ensure that it's engaging enough for people like me and you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think they didn't do badly, and
I agree.
and even when people were saying it, I'm just like, okay, that's your own opinion. Me, I love.
Well, I mean,
Yeah. So, when we're talking about Noughts and Crosses, why I decided to start with this is because of the story and the role reversal that they captured there. So can we discuss that a little bit?
Okay. So I think the beautiful thing about Noughts and Crosses is that it is speculative fiction. That's how it's been described. The story is speculative. It's fiction and it's speculative. And then it also has alternative history in it.
Yes.
Now, those 2 elements coming together absolutely will create any kind of, it could be in any situation. So in applying those 2 elements together in this story, what that did was that it flipped the entire story to the reality that we know. And it was centered on racism, but not racism. It's centered on love, but not love. There's just a lot of things that are happening there. And so when you start watching it, the first opening of the show, it doesn't tell you anything about how this world is going to change in the next 2-3 scenes. It's just a bunch of white kids being wild, having fun and enjoying themselves. And all of a sudden, there is the sirens everywhere. Police arrive, and then they're black policemen. They come out, and instantly, in almost the 3rd or the 4th scene, everything changes. The entire concept of the story moves from what you thought was normal to an entire different setup. It just hits you like, okay, this is amazing. Like, I need to see what happens here. Black cops beating up white kids. No, I mean, that was something that I needed to see. And so, in terms of storytelling, most times people need to understand that when you're structuring stories, you have to, in the first 10, 20 minutes, get the attention of anybody that you're listening. And this story did that amazingly in the first 3-4 scenes. Now, the concept, like I said, in flipping the whole thing, it takes your imagination to a lot of places. What if this was the reality? What if this was the normal? You start having those thoughts. I mean, recently, some of the things that we throw around are the new normal. These are the language that we hear these days. COVID has brought new normal. What if 700 years ago, which that is the background of the story, it started 700 years ago when Africans went to Europe and colonized the whole of United Kingdom.
Exactly.
You know, so it was a minority few that colonized the majority white, minority black that colonized the majority white. I mean, oh, to think that it was a BBC production that took it to
Yeah.
that stage, come on. That
Yeah.
is a story concept that I sat down and I said, I wish I was the one that talked about this.
But you know something? I also read there was an incident that happened in South Africa, and the
Hmm.
actor who plays the prime minister, Sefi's father. I just want
Yeah,
to share with you what he said. He goes,
that's Peterson Joseph. That's his name, Peterson Joseph.
yeah,
He plays
he
Kamal.
plays Kamal Heatley, yes, Patterson Joseph. Um, so this was at an event in South Bank in London, and he goes, "I don't mind saying this. It is the truth. We had extras, white extras in South Africa, who decided not to come back the next day when they heard the premise of what they just shot because it was difficult." And then he goes on to say, "I think if you're a black person, racism is something that is by the way. It's a part of the DNA of the way you live your daily life." And then I'll just go down to
Hmm.
where he says, um, he goes, so for the white people who were working on it, I think they had a harder time getting their heads around what it is to be naturally second class, to naturally feel
Hmm.
he's doing this to me. I'm being belittled. I'm being othered.
Hmm.
That's a daily thing. We can play that without thinking. How profound! I mean,
Hmm.
when I read this, I was just like, you know what? This is Noughts and Crosses actually creates food for thought beyond just entertainment because it's the truth. Because a lot of like white people have never ever seen themselves in this sort of roles, and Noughts and Crosses
Yeah,
really pushes, pushes
push that. Yeah,
yeah,
that envelope.
I just thought, I can imagine all the conversations that happened and how people even looked at themselves after watching something so profound and unlike anything that any of us have seen on TV before. So I really love that they were able to do that. But I also love the fact that, I mean, I'm a big romantic, so I love romantic stories. I love conquering everything, and against all odds, they were together, So, and
Hmm.
that brings me to the characters, all the different characters that we got to meet. And I'll start with
Oh
Sefi.
yeah,
I'll start
yeah.
with Sefi.
That's it.
You know,
Masali Badiza.
yeah, yeah. What do you think about like the characters and all that?
So the amazing thing, and before I talk about character, I want to quickly to just add to what you said concerning the white actors in South Africa refusing to be part of the show because of the idea behind I mean those kind of prejudice and the kind of sentiment that people apply to this. And I faced it when I was working on Sons of the Caliphate.
Okay.
Now, being a Christian from the north central part of Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
some people felt, why was I the one telling the story about a core northern topic that is centered in the caliphate, which is the center of where Islam is administered in the whole country. Why should a Christian boy be the one telling the story? That those sentiments were there. People said things. As a matter of fact, I had a musician who called and said we should pull down his song from the production because his fans had said, why is his song being associated with a production that was done by an infidel? So I totally can relate with exactly what they were going through. But for us, when we're doing Sons of the Caliphate, just to throw in there, we had to be very careful with the religious part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but then we were also very, very, very upbeat about the culture. So we make sure we stayed away from the religion because they're very sentimental about it. I mean, yeah, it wasn't a do or die thing for us. We just wanted to respect that. So I definitely understand what some of the actors felt when some of the white guys probably said they didn't want to be part of the production.
Yeah.
I mean, to think that it was a BBC production, it shows that somebody was willing. up there to push the button, you know. That said, coming to look at the characters, I think that one of the things that I've noticed is the fact that a major production like that was done and no Nigerian actor from Nollywood was cast for that. That pains me, I won't lie to you. I know a lot of the other Nigerian actors that are British, so to say, they were part of the production.
Yeah.
But then Matsali, who is South African, and she lives in I think she lives in Johannesburg in South Africa, went to the New York Film Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was born in the UK, but she's South African and lives in somewhere in Joburg. And she went to the acting school at the New York Film Academy in California. And I think that it was just an amazing thing casting her. She's just your girl next door.
Yeah,
There's something exotic. I mean, so the thing about the casting, there's something exotic about the look. It is not your outright, wow, beauty, There's just something relaxing and calming about just looking at these dark skinned women, these
yes,
melanin women coming out with their afro hair and speaking in a way that is really African and down to earth. I mean, of course, you notice all the Yoruba nuances in all those things.
yes,
And Jack Rowan, who plays Kalum Chemba, I think that's his name, in the show. Such a fantastic casting, and both of them blended so amazingly well.
yeah,
The chemistry was on point. You could feel the love, you could feel the tension, you could feel the pain, and almost everything that they were going through, you could feel it. There was a scene where they went to, I'm actually looking at it right now, they went to, when one of the white boys died, and they went to pay their tribute. There were like flowers at the staircase, and Seti and Kalum were there, and this black police guy came and started intimidating Kalum, who is a Nought, and his wife.
yeah,
It was so obviously I was pissed because this guy you could see the pain that she was going through for him, but she couldn't do anything about it. Why? Because I mean, it's the law of the land. So I thought it was an amazing casting. They made sure that they deliberately got people who were really, really African and dark skinned, which gives it the texture, which of course it makes it really very exotic. The hair, and then all the guys who play the other, the white, amazing characters.
amazing.
Patterson Joseph, who plays Kamal, Basali's father. That guy is I
Oh,
mean, you fear him. The moment you see him,
like
you know
I
that
said
he's going to
him
be.
so much.
And
I'm like, this guy is such a beast. Honestly, uh,
the way he carried that character with so much grace. There
yeah.
was just something about the way he
Even the
walked into an
mother,
office.
even
The
even
way,
the actress that,
yeah.
yeah, the mother. I thought she was, I love
Oh
how
yeah.
flawed actually, before I forget, I just love how flawed all of the different characters were. All of them
Mhm.
had their different issues they were dealing with.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
you remember Lekon? That's Sefi's boyfriend.
Oh.
Oh, oh,
That's Jonathan Ajayi. He's Nigerian. His name is Jonathan
yeah,
Ajayi. He's
yeah,
Nigerian but born in the. He pretty much turned out to be the antagonist of the entire production.
yeah,
I
he
mean,
did.
I am thinking that Kamal, who is played by Patterson Joseph, it was actually designed to be the bad guy of the production. But it turned out that Lekon, who gave Kalum, oh, that guy is
Yeah,
something else.
he was.
The
I'm really
arrogance.
him, and I can't wait to see what will come from Lakon because I'm sure we're going to see great things come from him. Then
Oh, yeah, as
Dawn,
an actor, absolutely.
yeah, as an actor, we're going to see great things come from him. Then when we talk about the villain here, Dawn, the guy who played Dawn, I can't remember his name now. Let me just check his name. Yeah.
The guy who
Um,
played,
the
oh,
one
the
who,
white guy who played Don.
yes, 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 yes.
The guy who was in
Well,
charge of, he was part of the
of
the the the,
yes,
the movement.
like what would we
Oh
call? What
yeah.
would we call them? Would we say that they're terrorists?
Oh, that was
Yeah, I call them. Yes,
yeah. I mean,
they're activists.
yeah,
They're
he's a
attack.
bad guy. I mean, but he
Yeah,
pretty much set up the entire conflict because when he
yeah,
had to go into the what do you call it, the hospital and kill the boy, and made it look
yeah,
like the boy died from his injuries, that was where the whole thing set up. Because it was something that he knew that without that they didn't have anything to fight with, and so the
yeah,
fact that the police had abused this boy, had beaten him, He was in the hospital, pretty much took the guy to death, and that was where the whole scandal started. And when Kalim's brother, what's his name now, went back home and told his
Jude.
father that he had met Don, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, his father was trying to tell him to be careful and stay away from this guy.
Yeah.
So the thing is, in the first episode of this show, they pretty much took you to introduce you to the world, introduce you to the character. I mean, you easily bought into this character instantly. And I think that is
Instant.
the brilliance of the writing. Yeah, that is the brilliance of, and that was done by Lydia Adetunji. That is the
Yes.
brilliance of the writing. It takes you from
Yes.
immediately you go in, you already know that this thing is set up to be a beautiful story because you all the conflicts are there, the incitement, everything is there. By the time you get to the end of it, you're like, okay, we're in for another episode. Let's go do this. So it's been amazing.
There was once I was watching it and I didn't even realize. I was sitting down. I didn't realize I actually got up to like moving towards the television. Like it was so intense for me. And I think it was the scene where in the prison where they were going to Callum's father when he was in prison,
Yeah,
when the
yeah.
the, the guard came and they were hitting him, and I was just so frightened that he was going to die that I was actually walking to the television like I could do anything to stop what was happening. I tell you. But that character too, I really love that character, and the
Oh,
sacrifice
he's
that he
one of,
make, and also
yeah,
his backstory of what he used to do. At the age
absolutely.
of, you
Yeah.
know what, I just want my family to be a part of it. And just unfortunately, Jude was just so hot-headed and decided, what, I'm still gonna go that way. But that
Absolutely.
sacrifice he had to make, giving himself
Mm,
for his son. Yeah, I
mm.
just want to talk about.
I think for their father, what really stood out for him was the fact that he had been through this resistance before,
Yeah,
and it almost looked like it was a known cause. There was nothing he could do about it, and he decided to just go back to a very quiet life. His
yeah,
wife, his children, get the jobs that he can get
yeah,
just to survive.
yeah,
But his son, who pretty much was almost like him, started getting himself involved with the resistance. And for the father, it almost so at some point the father couldn't resist, pulling himself back for the sake of pulling his son out of the whole
yes,
situation.
yeah,
And it's just amazing to see how much a father can sacrifice for
yeah,
his child. And the father played an amazing role in making sure. And the thing I liked about the father is that him and his wife, they were so in love. There were
yeah,
times when she would be so stressed about something and he would talk her through it. They were pretty much going through a lot.
yeah,
But what they did was kept the family unit intact. The boys were always home. They saw their parents when they were having issues and not. So it's just pretty much. I thought that was a good, beautiful casting for, and
yeah,
the mother, an amazing actress. The
uh,
way she
yeah.
carried her stuff is, oh, she, and to think that she had this deep secret that she was carrying on carrying
Exactly.
around, and that was something else for her to be able to have that kind of secret. To think that Kamal, who ended up being the prime minister, had this issue about segregation, and the North cannot deal with the crosses. Um, had a relationship way back with a North who and had a child called Yarrow. And that's the amazing thing about the show. Also, the fact that there are Igbo names, Yoruba names, Hausa
Names.
names in it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that was really very, very intriguing to find out that their names like Aremu,
Yes.
Balogun,
Okonjo.
Bako,
Okonjo.
Yaro, Okonjo.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing to just hear these names come out. And so yeah, so pretty much that was his own. He was conflicted because he had this principle, this thing
Mm.
about how segregation had to be there. Everybody was free, but they needed to push that. But then he also had and that's the beautiful thing about characterization. I've always known that no character should be beautiful, no character should be spotless. So no
Yeah.
matter how good you are, there was just something about you or
And
something about your past.
exactly. And I mean that brings me
Hmm.
to the relationship between Callum's mom and Kamal's wife. The relationship
Yeah,
between those two women, the bond between them, and how she would
Mm-hmm.
always look out for her. Even I mean, the prime minister's wife, from the home secretary's wife to
Yeah.
the prime minister's wife, being drunk, her extramarital affairs, all of that, and she always
Mm-hmm.
stood by her. So you could tell that they were really good
Mm-hmm.
friends. But at the same time, she still kept Kamal's secret away from
Oh,
her for
absolutely.
so long. Yeah,
Absolutely. And these were powerful people, and these are cities that should have used to bring them down. The
yeah,
same person that has been creating the wahala for them, she still had the power or the strength to keep their secrets
yeah,
and be loyal to whatever situation they were in. And so for a minute, it was a little bit difficult for her when she found out that Kalun and Seti had reconnected. They grew up together as children.
yeah.
And so it was a little bit difficult for her to, because she knew it was going to be trouble, But I mean, these guys were in love. There was nothing they could do about
So
it
they could do
than
about
to,
it. Yeah. And there was one scene I really
mm,
loved where she walked into Callum's room and Sephi and Callum, they were there together, and she just went and she gave the two of them a hug.
yeah,
Like, she's just like,
yeah.
there's really nothing we can do to fight these people, because whatever we do,
That,
they're going to find a
yeah.
way to do it together.
Yeah, that I think that was the moment for her that she accepted and officially told them, even without saying words. She officially just told them, you know what, it is okay. There's nothing we can do about this.
Yeah.
Because they were waiting for her to go off on the matter. They were waiting for her to be upset. But then she realized that, look, these children are in love. There is nothing we can do about it. And that pretty much is the whole Romeo and Juliet part of this story,
Yeah.
where I mean, the love was something that you people could not separate them. And these guys were, and the problem was that both of them were kind of weight on their heads, but they were still able to connect. The fact that Sefi is a cross, and she knew the kind of segregation, and her father was the one that is putting the fire,
Mm.
and Callum, who also is the North, and he understands that Sefi's father has the hand in every problem that they're going through, but yet they're able to put those things aside and find the connection. What that also means is that love can absolutely overcome anything. That's
Everything.
what it
Yeah.
really means. Yeah, that's pretty much what it means as far as I'm
But
concerned
but
concerning the
you
story.
have to agree that Sephi was a bit too forward. I found her forward. She would not allow the boy rest. She would not allow him to drink water and drop off. Like, she was just so. I'm just like, this girl really, like, just allow this boy be, But she just refused, and just seeing that the rebellion coming out of her because of how much she loved Callum. It was just something like, hey, if this was a Nigerian girl, what would you? Well,
Mhm.
how are you going to explain to your parents that, okay, maybe the mechanic on the road? It could
but
happen. But I'm just saying, how do you go and
but
explain when your parents have paid to
how
go
do you even
car
start?
badge, all that? Then you go and tell them that, mommy, you know what? I don't want to go to university again. I've seen this boy that fixes the tire on the road. I want to marry him. How? How are you gonna explain that? But
I
she's
mean, yeah. I mean, it was if you check the thing, I think somehow they wanted to give. I don't know if it was deliberate. It was from the book writer herself, or
mm,
it was from the adaptation to movie where they wanted to empower the women. Because Cersei was almost like a metaphor. She was almost like a representation of how strong women should be.
mm,
She, from the get go, when she reconnected with Kalun, made sure that even with the fact that she had a boyfriend that was scary,
ah,
she was able to connect with Kalun at every time that she wanted. In episode one, when she drove all the way to the house to apologize for what she did to him, the guy was shocked to see her in his house. Like, what? I mean, you would think that a girl who comes from a very protected
yeah,
house would have the freedom to just drive out into. Imagine, say, you live in government house in Lagos, and then you now have to drive out and go to Maroko, I mean Makoko,
yeah,
inside the water to go and look for a man. Yeah, that is that is the power of it. So the writers gave her the power
yeah.
to pursue what she wanted. And I think that in a way it's a message to say, you know what, if you love something, there's nothing wrong in going for it. But the truth is that, like you rightly said, in our society, you might fall in love with a mechanic, but then society has a way of seeing it.
Yes.
Ah, mechanic. What are you doing with a
Mm,
mechanic? Your dad will spin. He will not start calculating all the school fees that he paid on your head. that you're going to go and bring a mechanic to come and
Exactly. Yeah, and just before we move on to something else, I just wanted to touch on, you see where Kamal and Dawn came together because they needed to oust the prime minister, the female prime. I really love that the prime minister was a woman, and she was
yeah,
progressive, and
very,
she wanted to stop
yeah,
segregation, and she wanted everyone to get educated, and for society to move forward together. And I remember when she said,
absolutely,
Kamal, she goes, "What do you want your personal history to be? You may be preaching about segregation and all that, but what do you want your history to be? Do you want to be part of? Do you want your history to be associated with leaving segregation behind and everyone coming together?" And him having to go work with a Noughts who was causing so much problems in society just for his selfish benefit. And I was just
mm.
like, this is exactly what happens with politicians, and
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely,
everywhere,
pure policy,
and
yeah,
I couldn't believe that he would actually go to the prison to go and meet who's causing all the problems, who is the biggest terrorist, to work with him just for his selfish reasons.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so the thing is, so that kind of hits home because anyway. By the way, the lady who plays the prime minister, she's Reki Ayola. She's also a Nigerian. Um, the thing is that if you see her character, what they had done with her character is pretty much put her in a place where she had no idea what the world of politics was all about. She was the ideal. She was the person who wanted the right things. She wanted things done the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was a time when the chief of the police and Kamal were telling her how she was talking about how I think it was somehow they needed to go and apologize somewhere. And I told her, I said, no, that cannot happen. How is it possible that we'll go and people will now start thinking that we're soft,
Mm-hmm.
And Kamal understood that she was not powerful enough. She did not have the guts or the tenacity to hold on to the principles or the philosophy or whatever it is that they've been ruling with. She was soft and she was trying to dilute whatever it is that they've held on for 700 years. And what they needed to do was to get her out of the way. And that is definitely what the politics that happens. When we have the same enemy, even if we're enemies, we align to take out our enemies. And that was what he did going to Don, who happens to be the rebel, and saying, you know what, we can join hands together. I can give you all the access, give you whatever you need.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure that this happens and let's give up. And that was what happened. They took her out. But the thing about Don also was that he knew that he needed something to hold on so he can have Kamal. And that worked for him at the end of the day because that Kamal also had his own issues. And that made him. So it was dirty politics that was playing. And I think that that's also something that was amazing about the story, that there was a subtle, um, silent politics plot that was playing behind the scene. Even though the main issues were racism and love, but then they also had in the plot, also in the subplot, which they now had politics in it, which made it really very interesting to see. And it just gives it a lot of depth. It just gives it a lot of what do you call, how do I put the words? That just gives it depth so that you know that these guys were fully ready for this product. It wasn't anything that just focused on one thing. And I think that's the problem that a lot of our productions have. We most times focus on the main plot, and all the subplots suffer when we come to writing. And so at the end of the day, the writer is forced to just carry on with the main plot, and the subplots really do not support
Yeah.
the main plot and give people a little bit of relaxation, because what the subplots do is kind of ease you off from the main plot,
Yeah.
because it takes you on the high and then they now come down, and that's what they did beautifully with it,
Beautifully, yes, they did.
with the
I
story.
have to agree. Yeah, they
Yeah,
did beautifully.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
don't know if you noticed that Jay-Z Jay-Z was listed as one of the executive producers of the show.
Producers, yes, I saw that too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Jay Z is one of the executive producers of the show. The Rock Nation were
Yeah.
involved in the production of the show. I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing to hear, and I was shocked when I found out. I was like, you know what? There's something about these American stars who, in a subtle way, find ways to encourage the African narrative. The things that we're not investing our money in, these guys are investing their
They
money. I
are.
know that Will Smith I think the same Jay-Z had a hand in the Fela on Broadway. You
Mm-hmm.
know, these are the kind of things that they're investing money in telling the kind of stories that people should see. Not that Africans are going to wake up tomorrow and want to try to colonize Europe, which is still a bad thing because racism,
Yeah.
in no matter where it is bad, you know. But then just so you have a picture of how powerful you can be. I think
Yeah.
that what it did to me was give me the power to think that, look, Africa, if we really want to be powerful, if we really want to be great, if we really want to put systems in place that can work, just like they represented in the story, these are
Mm-hmm.
things that we can do. I mean, there's been evidence that almost everything started in Africa. We discover things. There's so many things that we are known to have done, you know, to
Yeah.
enhance, you know, the pretty much daily life of human beings. If only we can put ourselves together and put systems in place. I mean, Africa can be a beautiful place too. I mean, I know that when the Wakanda story came up, it was another opener. It was, of course, fictional, but then it took you to a place where you started thinking, oh, more Africa is powerful. And there are really white people who
Even with
actually
this
believe
one,
that
even with this one, they called it Africa. Even with this one, it was called Africa, and it just showed
Africa,
that.
exactly.
Yeah, and we have the power to tell our own stories, and we have the power to change, the story of Africa. It's our responsibility, and I think having progressive, I'll call this a progressive series because I think it makes people think outside the box on both sides,
Yeah,
and not just white and black, but it's just any society where there are people who are oppressed. It just makes you think about it
absolutely.
differently, and it makes you put yourself in the people's shoes. Yeah. And now I really want to talk about this because we're almost running out of time. Yeah. But I want us to
Yeah.
talk about like the costume, and the
Oh.
music, and this African language that they invented, and you could hear well, Baba here. I mean, was it Baba? And just little, all these tiny things could hear. So I want us to talk about it. I mean, like the costume. I mean, I have to say, they really tried.
the
Yeah,
the production design, the
yeah.
production value for Noughts and Crosses is on another level.
Level, yeah,
Whoever, I mean, these guys did their research, and what they wanted to do was to make sure that it was not limited to a certain African culture. So there was a mixture of everything,
mm,
and so in terms of the aesthetics of the production itself, a lot of patterns and colors were very
yeah,
visible, which gives it the vibrancy of Africa. And in terms of visually, it was stunning to see kente fabric. You were starting to see the Ankara fabric. Pretty much in everything. The military uniform had elements of all of these things. Their ceremonial dresses had all of the incorporated in it. But then the classic contrast with the North, pretty much dressed down in dark colors, so that there is this
yes,
doom or this gloom over them. It made them look suppressed. It made them look
mm,
diminished. It made them disappear. And somehow, I mean, the black also represented the fact that there is some sort of dominance. That's how it felt, you know.
mm,
But then to see that this film was shot both in South Africa and also in London, and the pictures
yeah,
put together look like it was in the same place is just amazing, you know. And not to somebody was talking about the music. Oh my goodness, the
yeah.
selection of songs, the scoring of the music, everything about it was just really, really,
It
really,
worked.
really amazing,
Just
you know.
everything came
So
together. Yeah,
everything came together. It's a world that you enter and you're just comfortable in staying in it. And that's something that people must understand. That in production, you must understand that you're giving people an experience. You want to take them out of their reality
yeah,
and put them in a world that they've never been to. Or
yeah,
the world that they think that they've been to, but in your own way interpreting it so that when they stay in there, they're comfortable to come back when they come out of it. That's how people want to come back to see a second episode. That's how people want to come back and see the 150th episode. Why? Because you have created a world that people can walk into and just stay there for the moment they're trying to escape whatever it is they're escaping from the reality. Not on Crosses checked all those boxes in terms of the fact that every time the show opens, you are in another world. You know, it's something that you probably never imagined. Black people dominating white people, and how the sets are. Oh my goodness, you know.
Yeah.
Every time I look at it, I get challenged about how it's about doing the right thing. It's about getting the narrative right. It's about understanding
Yeah.
what enhances the performance, and that's the kind of thing that helps actors grow. When actors stay in an environment and a setup that makes them feel, they bring out the character more, and that helped the entire. I think that all the places where Seti had to go and meet Kalum. I mean, it's pretty much the ghetto, and that kind of heightens the tension because she
Yeah.
knows the stakes are high. Anything could happen to her in that kind of setup. So this guy is, oh my goodness, it's an amazing job. They did their research very well. I mean, they had the judge who had a gele, you know, and I heard the director Adam, somebody Adam was talking about how it was deliberate because there's something about the gele that is almost like a crown. It is the power of the Nigerian woman,
But you
and
know,
if
I
the
got
judge to it,
something I didn't like. That gele was not working for me at all. I didn't like it.
it was not timed very
Like
well.
I was
No,
like,
but I guess
I tell you, I wanted
if
to
the
find. I
time now,
wish we could find somebody in Nigeria that would tie wedding gele.
it was the time that was the problem. But the idea behind it was pretty
Yes.
much to say the average African woman or the average Nigerian woman takes
Mm.
her royalty when she puts her adorn her head tie. And so if she's going to sit as the prime minister or she's going to sit as the judge, then we need to put something other than the wig,
Mm.
something that makes them look like, you know. And so pretty much it occupied the space because the headroom had to be a little bit longer than so that they can
And
accommodate the jelly.
you
But
know,
hey, it worked. In terms,
somebody wrote here. Somebody just wrote here that the men's costumes were fine, but they were not very happy with the women. I think I can agree with that to an extent because there were some times some of those characters came out and I was like, what's she wearing? This doesn't really work. But I like the hairstyle. I like the natural hair. I really love what they did with the natural hair, and even seeing somebody even wrote that here where Noughts wearing hairstyle that crosses would normally wear, like seeing that the white girl
yeah.
and all that. So yeah, they
But
did
but
a
this is
good job. But on
but this is what it.
the costume, it was a bit tricky for me. I was not 100.
Let me tell you why I think that the costume was. I mean, for me, the way I interpreted it is this: is that this story is set in 21st century Europe, 21st century United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Now, whether you like it or not, the African fashion in the 21st century has kind of been watered down by Western influence. We
Mm.
have had to infuse a lot of Western influence in our design these days, you know. And so I felt that if they had gone ahead to say, let's put in the 21st century African style in the costuming, it would have been lost in the translation because a lot of it had a bit of Western influence. So
Mm.
the best thing to do was to go down to the very early fashion African style and then bring it back because that stood out in a 21st century setting. And so if you notice, most of the women were dressed in the way that they would probably look in the 70s or in the 60s. And that kind of brought out the African ambience. That's the way I see it. And if you notice, most of the hairstyles were shuku and all those things. You remember Moabudu was fighting Voice of America just day before yesterday
And
about this hairstyle thing. Yes, I pretty much you saw that, and that's pretty much what they were trying to do. The hairstyle. I mean, the mother, the wife of Kamal's mother, wife. If you notice her hairstyle, she
yeah,
had this whole, and Pepsi most of her had this. So it was a deliberate thing, I think, that they wanted to make sure that the fashion was not lost in terms of 21st century UK. If we're putting most of the kind of things that we're wearing now, that's how I see it. It could have been better, I know, but then, I mean, at the end of the day, it brought out the difference between, and you could see anytime you saw the fabric or you saw the pattern, it just worked for the story.
yeah, indeed. Okay, now we're going to go to where you're an expert, which is the directing. I'd really like
Mm.
to hear what you have to say about the directing, the directing style, and also the lighting of it. I really love the lighting and even the pictures they created for us. I'd like you to talk us through that.
So the thing I noticed about it is that when it came to the North, which are the whites and the oppressed, the guys who are suffering in the production,
Mm.
most of the pictures around them were contrasted. There was something gloomy and dark about the
Yeah.
pictures there that it was frustrating. It was deliberately in a way done to make you feel depressed, and pretty much it enhanced the story in terms of saying these people were suffering. A lot of times they were in cramped up rooms. I mean, they had like the rooms were tiny, and so you could feel almost like you were, what's that word when you have forgotten it, when you have a phobia for space. Pretty much that's how you start feeling like something is choking you,
Yeah.
and so and it's dirty, it's broken. But then once you go to the crosses, there is something that opens up about the beauty of the place.
Yeah.
There is enough light. The colors are vibrant. Pretty much the setup is beautiful. What I also noticed about the directing is that the directors knew that they were not in a hurry to. There was nothing. So they were pretty much steady shots, shots that were deliberately put on tripods so that you could take your time and take in the ambience. There was nothing shaky about the pictures, unless if there was anything that was going to be a little bit, that they. So the director did an amazing job in terms of allowing the actors breathe, and
Yeah.
that also translated to the editing. They allowed you to experience these actors when they're talking. In Nigeria, we think that is cut from close up wide at any time. So in the middle of a conversation, you're trying to express your love to a girl. Instead of us to stay with you, get the emotion, we are cutting to a wide or we're cutting to the girl. Pretty much editors here do not understand that editing is also storytelling. These guys did an amazing job in directing these people.
Yeah.
What they were also able to do was allow these guys to feel this character, and it almost felt to them like this is real. I was listening to Masali talk about how at some point she got lost in the character called Sethi, and coming out of Sethi was almost difficult for her, because of the things that she went through in understanding the character when she was
Yeah.
reading through all those scripts and trying to understand it. That was how they were allowed to embody these characters. And when they came on board, you could see almost like because what's her name? Ajayi, the lady who wrote it, had a theater background. A lot of the time she allowed the writers more express themselves more like, when it's on theater, there's more gestures, you have to express yourself, so when she was writing, it was almost like she was writing for theater. And so you could see that a lot of these guys had to go through the emotions of pain, anger, in one take, in one scene. They go through all of those expressions, and so you get to see the beauty of their craft. So I think that technically these guys did an amazing job in terms of the look. They make sure that constantly when you go to the north, you were always depressed by seeing the pictures in terms of the crosses. And then when both worlds meet, a lot of times, one of the things that is difficult to do is to frame both a dark skinned person and a fair skinned person. A lot of cinematographers will tell you that is not the easiest thing to do, and that was one of the things that they had to deal with, having Seti and Kalum almost in a lot of the frames.
Yeah.
So in terms of lighting those two characters, Seti would require more light than Kalum, and how they were able to achieve that and take all those white shots.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's just the job of people who really understand this craft.
Indeed. Indeed. So we're rounding up now. So how would you summarize the experience of going into the world of knots and crosses? How would you summarize your experience?
Oh. If there's anything that did to me is that it made me begin to realize that the power of storytelling, like there is so much that we have not told about the beauty of Africa. There is so much that we have not told about what could have been. There is so much room to imagine what is possible.
Mm.
I'm beginning to think that is it time for us in Nigeria to start telling the stories of the realities that we want to see? Is it very possible that somebody tells a story about how Lagos transformed into one of the biggest mega cities? Is it possible to do that? I mean, should we be looking into telling stories about how that I was listening to somebody, a Norwegian lady the other day say that they practically almost don't have criminals in Norway. Is it possible that anybody can imagine a 21st century Lagos with no Agberos? Is it very possible that anybody can imagine a 21st century Lagos with no yellow buses? Is it very possible that anybody can imagine a 21st century Nigeria with no corruption? I mean, these are things, stories that we need to be ambitious with. We cannot hide under this mediocre and wake up every day and we're doing all these cruise stories that we're writing. Everybody is doing twisting tongue and we're doing funny every day. Those stories do not sell mainstream. We only, it's, you know what I'm talking about. Those stories do not sell mainstream because not only we they talk about. Do you understand? So even if you go to Netflix, Nigerians that are watching.
No, now we are part of the struggle. We're getting better.
I know. Even if it is Netflix, you're finding out that Nigerians are the ones watching on Netflix. Even if it is Iroko, it is almost the 5 million Nigerians or Africans in diaspora that are watching it. Mainstream, I mean, people are not experiencing our story. I know that Noughts and Crosses did an amazing job. A lot of people had seen the production. Why? Because it was different, it was fresh, there was something about it. It just takes a little bit of time to sit down and think about this concept. And we can actually do it. So for me, it was an experience watching those 6 episodes. It was a world that I have it recorded. It is not leaving my decoder for the next 10 years. If my decoder is there, I'm going to keep it there. If I have to find it on DVD, I'll buy it and keep it because this is something I want my children to see because it will give them an idea of how powerful they can be as Africans. And I think that every young person should see this video and or see this production because it takes you to a place where you start feeling powerful about what is possible.
Thank you so much. And then finally, you have to rate Noughts and Crosses over 10. So what would you rate it?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
You have to rate it over 10. So what would you say it deserves over 10?
Oh, rate the over 10. Oh, I give it a 9 over 10. Not because I don't want to give them a 10 over 10.
Yeah, because there's still room for improvement. I mean, for that Gele, that crime they committed with time that Gele.
No, that Gele, I'm sure maybe there's going to be a season 2 in which they're actually talking about a season 2 and the actors have already declared an interest for a season 2. I'm sure they will probably look into the Gele matter because they need to watch Gele.
Yes, indeed. And you know what you said is true because I mean Nollywood is such a big industry, and then we have a show like that, and not one actor from Nollywood, was in there. But it's a process. In time, all of us will be working with each other across borders. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining in today.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. I totally enjoyed myself.
From you, so thank you so much for being so generous. And I hope you're staying safe,
No.
and staying healthy, and being careful.
Oh yeah, I've not gone anywhere today. I'm in my house. I mean, I'm afraid of going out. So we're safe. Thank God for that.
Okay. Thank you very much, and for everyone.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, indeed.
Keep safe. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we're going to put out this is still going to be available in my story, and we'll put out some information. This is going to be bi-monthly, so we're going to have another one in the next 2 weeks, and we're going to be reviewing The Delivery Boy, which is on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
So we'll put information out about that.
And I just watched it today, so yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay. All right, then take care. Bye.
And Aldo, I can see and Aldo. Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Michelle. No, thanks to everyone who listened here. Oh, Aldo, bye. Okay. Okay then.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Bye.